Alrighty, folks, the most anticipated episode in our short series here. I'm super excited. We've got my pops in the studio, Joe Kelly Scene, as the Corona Boys like to call him. I have a little intro set aside for him, so just to give you a little bit about him, it sounds something like this. Today, ladies and gentlemen, a special episode indeed. We have been joined by my first guest on the pod, and strap in, give yourself a drink, enjoy this one, fix your posture, go ahead and get ready because it's a good one. We've got a wealth of knowledge coming in here. Like I said, it's my dad. You guys have heard some previous stories and some previous segments about him. I tend to talk a lot about him. I've learned a lot from him, so I'm excited to have him here in the studio. A little bit about him. He is a very eclectic man. He doesn't like to brag too much about himself, but I will do I will have the privilege of doing so. Among my dad's interests outside of sports, he was a collegiate athlete at the University of Vanderbilt in the 80s. He was there as a student athlete playing football. He came from Fullerton JC, where he went and did a couple years there. Correct, Pot? Were you at Fullerton for 2 years or 1 year?
I was there for my sophomore year.
Your sophomore year at Fullerton JC, and then got recruited to Vanderbilt to go play football as a wide receiver. And he then went undrafted in the NFL and had a chance at a training camp for the Chargers. At the time, they were in San Diego, and was able to have a little bit of time in training camp with the Chargers. So outside of that, among my dad's interests, he has a fascinating interest in a couple of different things like theology, apologetics, logic and reason, where he taught those at our Truth Academy at our home church. And that was Living Truth Christian Fellowship. They had a Bible college / Bible academy where they offered some, I would say, Christian centered education, further education, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pop, some of those classes were college applicable or eligible to be transferred into college credits, maybe?
There were some accrediting bodies that recognized our classes as college level courses.
Awesome. And that was apologetics, theology, logic and reason, correct? And logic and reason was one class, and then theology was the second class, and apologetics was the third class?
We had a number of classes. We had science classes, we had history classes, we had apologetics classes, philosophy, ethics, metaphysics. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Very well-rounded.
Awesome. And then fun fact about my dad, actually, Vanderbilt has not been known for their collegiate football, at least in my lifetime. But they were pretty good back in the day when my dad was there. And in fact, before this past year, which would have been the 2024 collegiate football season, Vanderbilt hadn't beaten the University of Alabama in a long time. I'm not sure the correct amount of years, maybe since the 80s. And the last time that Vanderbilt did beat Alabama was in Tuscaloosa, and Joe Kelly Sr., which he would have not been Joe Kelly Sr. at the time. He would have just been Joe Kelly, caught the game-winning touchdown pass for the University of Vanderbilt to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So it was actually pretty cool last year when Alabama did lose to Vanderbilt. You got a little bit of shine on SportsCenter and some of the, obviously, news reportings that were having to reference the last time that Vanderbilt beat Alabama. So there's a couple cool Joe Kelly clips out there. Seeing you in your old gear, which I definitely have pictures of and will be throwing into this podcast episode. Wow. So I'll be sending those over to Luke. But yes, among those many things, he is a father of 8. I am his youngest, and some may say, even maybe himself would say, I resemble him a lot in many different characteristics, some being good and some being definitely stubborn and not so good maybe. He's loved my mom for 20 years, going to plus 20 years at this point. They were married in August of 2002. 2003. That would have made me 8 years old. So yeah, it's been a great time. We've definitely had our share of butting heads, and you raising me and me being rebellious to some of your ways, but I consider you my best friend, and I definitely appreciate all the times we've had.
It'd be hard to live up to that introduction.
Oh.
No, listen, this is your third
episode. Yeah.
I'm your first guest.
First guest.
So I just want to say thank you very much. I want the best for you. I would love to see this podcast fulfill all your expectations. I think that'd be wonderful. So I appreciate you asking me on. Not sure how I contribute to your audience. Not much of an MMA guy.
It's more of the wealth of knowledge, for sure. The wealth of knowledge, the calm demeanor.
Well,
it's much more than MMA, but I know what you're relating to. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do want to say this, a quick little correction.
Yeah.
You said I caught the game-winning touchdown. That makes it sound like we were behind, and then I caught the ball, and that put us ahead. I did catch a touchdown in the fourth quarter, which I would put it this way, helped secure the win.
Okay. What was the final score?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I think the touchdown I caught put us ahead by more than a score. So,
okay.
So that definitely made a difference. And so that was a lot of fun participating in that game.
Yeah.
Didn't know if I would live to see the day that Vandy would ever beat Alabama again. No, Vanderbilt is not a powerhouse in football.
No, they're not.
Although for the last 30 years they've been in the top conference in college football. That's indisputable. I don't care. You Pac-10, Pac-12 guys, you Big 10, Big 12, and Big 8. I don't care what it is. ACC, right? Mm-hmm. The SEC has been
the best. The Southeastern Conference has dominated for decades. Yeah, Dad's a big SEC guy for all you college football fans. So picking up right after that intro, I kind of want to just talk about, I've obviously bragged a little bit about and kind of put you up on a pedestal, just kind of with your knowledge, your information. Obviously, you're my dad, so I see you at that level anyway. But there is truth to it, and I know you're humble about it. But there is a lot of things that I've rebelliously been told throughout my whole life that I should have adhered more advice to you with. And there's definitely a wealth of knowledge that you have that could share with us. So that was kind of my I guess plan with you coming on is and I guess it ties into how you could be helpful to this entire podcast is not only is it MMA related or is it, male interest related or self-development related, it's also in the scope of just gaining knowledge and gaining knowledge from people that have trustworthy knowledge to give. As you know, not all knowledge or belief systems or paths of life are the most healthy or most conducive to fulfillment or to your goals or whatever it may be. And I do think that you have a wealth of knowledge that whatever you were advising, what path you would give very good advice for people's best interests and not for your own. So that's kind of why you're here. Also, I want to have a similarity or a similar theme in my guests of just being genuine people, no matter the scale of life that they're in, and to provide some sort of value to better the community and better. Obviously, it's scaled towards men my age and people my age and still trying to figure it out and put it all together. So that's kind of where I saw you fit. And I didn't think of a better, there is no better guest than to have on for the first guest than my dad, because even though it's episode 3, I do think that, let's say we get to episode 100 and people are still just trying to figure out or see me for the first couple of times, I feel like this episode will give them a lot of insight to how I was raised and maybe some of the ways that I think. So that's kind of why you're here.
Well, I hope today lives up to all your expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it will.
That would be great. And when you say something like you've lived some years, hopefully you have some wisdom to give, and that you still have some learning to do. So number one, we all still have learning to do. Better to learn from someone else's mistakes than your own.
Yeah, right? Agreed. Yeah.
So if there's anything I can say today that would put you on that path, or anybody else out there listening, maybe so.
I'm sure there will be.
The problem with that is that by nature, we want to do it our own way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Self-autonomy, right? we are our own law. And that's what gets us into trouble.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I'm sure we'll extrapolate a little bit on that kind of idea and thing in a little bit here. But for the audience, for the people that may have not met you or have had the blessing to have conversations with you, I'm sure a lot of Corona boys will enjoy this episode, just looking back on Josine and the conversations that they've had. Just to shout out a couple of them, like Thomas back home and Levi and all the Corona guys that we know in that group. I'm sure they'll have a ball listening to this one with Nolo and everybody else. But why don't you just go ahead and start? I really want to highlight a lot of your mentalities, theories, belief systems, things like that throughout this episode. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your early life with Grandma and Grandpa? Unfortunately, I don't think I got to meet Grandpa consciously. I maybe saw him when I was super young, but why don't you kind of tell me about how they raised you, what Grandma and Grandpa did, how many siblings you have, and things like that.
Sure. Before we do that, I would go back to the fact that you're talking about the boys from Corona.
Yeah.
Left my heart in Corona when we moved.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Left all of our hearts in Corona. We love and miss our Corona family for sure.
So many friends.
Yeah, very many.
From all walks of life.
Yeah.
And all the friends of my kids are friends of mine also.
Yeah.
So this is...
Josine, Papa Joe.
So that introduction, I was thinking that when you were talking about me in the intro, and they're thinking, good night, Michael. Who are you talking about? That's not
all know.
That's not the Joe I know.
They all know. They all know. That's why they love you so much. You're a depth of knowledge for sure. But go ahead, yeah.
Well, thank you. So my home life, it was me, my sister, and two brothers. Intact family, mom and dad. I was born in New Jersey. We moved to San Diego, the home that my dad was born in San Diego, a little part of San Diego called Talmadge Park, not far from Hoover High School, where Ted Williams played his baseball. And one of my uncles attended Hoover High School, I think just a few years behind Ted, and maybe even knew him. My Uncle Bob, as a matter of fact, my dad's older brother. Middle of the boys. But my dad came from a family of five, 3 boys, 2 sisters. My mom came from a family there were 3 of them. Both mom and dad came from intact homes, and that provided a strong foundation for us. So we were raised going to Mass, Catholic Church on Sundays, religiously. And, a lot of times we rebel against our upbringing. We want to forge our own path. I did some of that, but the Catholic upbringing laid what I feel like is a very important and a very special foundation for me. I found the teachings, the core teachings, and by the way, if you're going to make a distinction between Catholicism and, say, evangelicalism, Eastern Orthodox, there's a core set of tenets, core set of beliefs that you would say that they all agree upon.
All have in common.
Mm-hmm. Things like being monotheistic religion, i.e. one God. They believe that, all believe that God is expressed in his triune nature, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. They believe that Jesus was both man and God incarnate. That he lived a sinless, holy life, that he died on the cross, and that he raised from the dead on the 3rd day. So those are some of the core teachings, that his death was a substitutionary death. In other words, he died in place of or for somebody else. That would be us, those that need salvation, those that aren't living a perfect life, which is nobody. So anyway, my Catholic upbringing was important, played a big role in my formation. My parents were serious about their job as parents, very loving, very gracious. The distinction between mom and dad was typical male-female sort of roles.
Typical meaning you mean what we would consider old-fashioned, maybe like the gender roles
You could say
and
old-fashioned.
things like that.
Yeah, you could say old-fashioned. My dad was masculine. My mom was feminine. That was expressed in how they loved us, how they disciplined us.
Right.
And I think if you were to ask either of my brothers or my sister, they would feel like we were all treated equally, though we were treated fairly. We were given, chores. There were certainly we needed to conduct ourselves in the house, outside of the house. So that type of thing. My father was in the Navy. His brothers were in the Navy. His dad was in the Navy. My mom's dad was in the Navy. So a lot of naval training was passed down, whether we knew it that way or not.
Right. That was just the lifestyle that they lived generationally.
Yeah, just being disciplined.
Yeah.
Being given chores to do. Boy, oh boy.
High standards.
Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. is not fun. 11 years old or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mowing the lawn with a push mower, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So that was that was home life. Always had food on the table. We were not, I would say middle class.
Right.
The neighborhoods we lived in would put us at schools that were very diverse. So there was a lot of diversity. The sports leagues we played in, because we didn't live in, say, a newer suburb or something, or a predominantly white neighborhood or whatever. The sports teams I played on were a good mixture of white, Hispanic, black. And growing up, I always had friends that were equally mixed. The schools I went to, especially both the Catholic and public schools, were mixed also. So
I would say San Diego is probably a good area geographically to have a melting pot, diversity.
Where we happened to grow up, it was an older neighborhood.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of kids in our neighborhood because it was a lot of families that were there when the homes were built in the 30s
And had grown out of their family
40s.
stage.
Post World War II. It was still that couple there.
Gotcha.
Kids had moved away. We happened to move back into that neighborhood because my grandmother needed full-time care at a convalescent home.
Well, and Grandpa got stationed out there, right? So I'd imagine
He wasn't stationed. He was no longer in the military.
Oh, okay.
But we moved. He was an engineer. We moved, and he took on a job in San Diego.
Gotcha. So his last military work was done in New Jersey?
It was before I was born.
Okay. So he had already been
It was in the 50s.
out.
Yes.
He had already been out in civilian life.
Correct.
By the time you were born.
Correct.
Okay. So San Diego was just a job opportunity, and it happened to work out that he needed to take care of Grandma.
Well, the opportunity wasn't for the job. It was to move into the home
To take care of Grandma.
his mother, my grandmother, could no longer take care of.
Gotcha. Okay. And then he found a job after you guys had made the move.
Right.
And you were how old when you guys went to San Diego?
But because my mom and dad had met in San Diego, because my mom's parents lived in San Diego, her brother still lived in San Diego, her sister and my uncle lived in San Diego, my cousins. So there was strong family ties
Strong
there
foundation.
on my mom's side.
Right. Okay.
So I was a Padres fan, a Chargers fan.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So growing up, how did Grandpa help you in sports? Obviously, you were a good athlete. Uncle Paul was a good athlete. Uncle Mike was a good athlete. All of our cousins are good athletes. So how was Grandpa involved? Go ahead.
If you ask my sister, she said she would also say she was a good athlete.
Really?
She was?
Yeah. What did Aunt Kathy do?
This is a funny story.
Okay.
Me and my brothers and my sister, we have a group text. So at least 2-3 times a week, we're texting just about weird things. Maybe somebody sends a text about a song that they remember from the 70s, and then that leads to other
Conversations.
reminiscing.
Yeah.
So we were talking about being in track. I was in track when I was a kid in San Diego. I was pretty good in track. My sister wanted to remind us all that she also ran track and was invited to run for the track team, which was called Mickey's Missiles in San Diego.
Okay.
She didn't, but she was invited to run on that track team. And so anyways, that reminded me because you left her out when you said your brothers were good athletes.
I did. Well, I never heard stories about Aunt Kathy being an athlete. All I knew about Aunt Kathy was she was the smart one who went to USC and could outsmart all of her brothers. But you guys are just as smart as well. So you guys are very intelligent and very athletic.
Academics came very easy for her.
Yeah, that's what and it sounds like that when you talk to Aunt Kathy, to be honest. She's very fluid in her information and she's a very good speaker, in my opinion. But how is Grandpa with you guys? Because I know a lot about Grandma, and she was very hands-on, loving with you guys, and kind of let Grandpa do a lot of the I guess leading. But how was he with your guys' like sports? Was he an athlete himself? Was he involved in your guys' sport pretty hands-on? Did his work take up a lot of time outside of your guys' sports, things like that?
Both my mom and dad were athletic, although the opportunities to display the athleticism
weren't as vast for Grandma, I'd imagine.
The same then as it was even from when I was a kid to what it is today.
Right.
And so, yes, he played sports. He went to St. Augustine High School in San Diego, which at the time was an all-boys Catholic high school. So I think he played football and basketball. I think it was football and basketball. They kept us busy. So we were in sports year-round. We played Pop Warner football. We played Little League baseball. We were playing basketball. And if it wasn't organized in a league, it was out front in the street until fists got thrown. So there was what neighborhood kids were in our neighborhood. We had some serious competition. The basketball games got bloody,
got heated.
The football games, the two-hand touch in the street became two-hand push.
Two-hand push in the street,
which ends up with bloody elbows and knees and everything else.
Yeah.
So we were doing that constantly. We were never in the house unless it was to eat or sleep.
Or to sleep, yeah. On that note, I have a question because I know the stories of you, Uncle Mike, and Uncle Paul. Would you guys fight more internally or more with the neighborhood kids?
Well, because we live with each other, we fought with each other.
Yeah.
Although Paul being a couple years older than me, I was smart enough to know why would I want to fight my older brother. So I got to fight with my younger brother.
Uncle Mike, poor Uncle Mike,
who was a year younger than me. So Mike and I were so close in size and appearance
and age, and just
But I'll tell you, whenever we were on the same team, we would usually win, whatever that was, whether it was 2-on-2 or 4-on-4, and we happened to be on the same team.
Right.
So yeah, me and Mike would fight. Unfortunately, I admit that most of it was at my instigating.
Absolutely.
And not proud of that.
Not surprised. As your son, not surprised at all that you were the instigator at all. You know how to get under people's skin, that's for sure.
But yeah, Mike was.
Bet you Mike became a good athlete because of that.
Mike was a good athlete.
Yeah.
Mike
had his older brother pushing him the entire time.
We were always on the same team. So in Little League, I pitched, he caught.
That's cool.
When he pitched, I caught.
That's cool.
One year we went, I think I was 10 and he was 9. I think we went 21-0. And him and I pitched.
All 21 games?
Every game.
That's awesome.
Back and forth. One game on Wednesday, one game on Saturday.
And you guys would just flop from the hill to the plate,
Pretty much.
That's cool. That's awesome. All right. Well, I kind of want to get into, because you've told me some Vandy stories. I want to hear some Vandy stories. I want to hear how was it going through high school? You were a quarterback in high school at Orange High out in Orange, California. And then you got recruited to play JC ball. But when did you, a couple questions here, and just you can draw it out however you want. You originally were a quarterback. Was football your favorite sport? Were you the best at football? Or was there other sports that you maybe had more passion or skill in, aka baseball, basketball, whatever the case may be? And why did you switch from being a quarterback in high school to then ending up at Vanderbilt as a wide receiver. Because you can still throw, and the viewers don't know how athletic you still are today. You can still pick up a football, and after a little 10-yard catch for 5 or 6 throws, you could still put it on a dot from 45 yards with a tight spiral. So I want to know why you went from quarterback to receiver and kind of that transition going into Vandy and what all that kind of time period.
Yeah, so I'll fill in a little bit on that. By the way, this is in front of a camera, in front of mics with people listening. This is not my favorite thing to do.
I know it's not.
If we were just sitting at home on the couch,
he'd be a lot more vibrant. That's for sure.
I'd say, what do you mean 45 yards? Try 55.
Yeah, I was trying to be modest. This is okay. I'm going to say a little sidebar here before you go. This man,
we played catch,
you guys don't know. This man, well, we were still living in California. As he said, Corona was our home. This man and he had mentioned before he has done track and field. If you guys know the javelin throw or the shot put throw or the discus in any track and field event, the javelin throw is very much the same as the shot put or the discus. You throw an object and you see how far you can throw it. Person who throws it the farthest within regulations wins. This guy hasn't thrown a javelin since high school. Now, I don't know the exact math on that, but let's just call it the 70s. He hasn't picked up a javelin. He saw some, local track meet for his age group going on in the area and decided to sign up for a javelin throw. And mind you, he was probably 50s at this point, mid 50s, maybe low 50s that you were doing this, and decided to buy a javelin on Amazon and start going to the Corona High track and field football field right down the street from our house and start training to throw the javelin. And I'm like, Dad, what are you doing, dude? You're 50 some odd years old. You got your church group. You got your mom's business. You got all of us running around with our stuff going on. You're just going to pick up the javelin and go throw it? And he was like, yeah, I'm going to go win. Funny enough, what does he do? He picks up the javelin, starts training for a couple weeks, goes to the local track meet and wins. Well, what does that give him eligibility to go do? Well, now he gets to go to the California track meet, the whole state. He qualified for the whole state track meet for the 50 some odd years old guys. Long story short, won that track meet, went to the region, which was, I'm sure, the Western region, won that track meet, and then ended up being eligible for the national track meet at his age group. Went out there, and due to a technicality, came in second, or was it second or third that you on your one of your first couple throws. Long story short, the guy picks up a javelin and in 8 months becomes a national in his age group, almost champion, and would have beat the guy if he didn't cross the line on the javelin throw, because you have a running head start before you throw the javelin, and his foot crossed the line and he beat the guy by a couple meters. But the throw didn't count. It was disqualified. So just to give you an insight on this guy's freakish athleticism, he's being very modest, very humble, and I appreciate it. That's why I like to brag about him, because he doesn't like to do it himself. It makes him uncomfortable, especially on camera. But he would definitely be giving me slack for only giving him 45 yards credit and everything like that. But anyways, if he wanted to pick up the javelin, I'm sure he could throw it for 2 months and go out there and win that track meet in his age group. Not a problem, and it's really frustrating because he's still getting older and he's just not wearing away yet. So it's pretty frustrating. But go ahead. Yeah, that's an insight into his athleticism for sure. 60 yards. I give him 65 yards. He could still pump a football.
Oh.
Easily.
That's a long way.
Yeah, but you warm you up, have you thrown for a week, you could hit a 65-yard go. It wouldn't even be, I don't think it would be an issue. You could probably still put some zip on it too.
Your audience is going to want to see that. They're going to be like,
we'll set it up. Right. Thanksgiving.
I can't.
Turkey bowl. You don't think you can do 60?
I'm 62 years old. Come on.
You can throw a yard for every age. I believe in you.
I can outthrow Pete Carroll, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's for sure. But he's also got 10 years on you.
When he was my age.
Yeah, probably. You still see him. He's still going. He's with the Raiders now. Sidebar. He got hired by the Raiders, and Tom Brady's in the management group over there. They're talking about maybe getting Aaron Rodgers in there, so he's not going to be a Jet. But anyways, back to you, Pop. Tell me about your high school football days, quarterback playing, transferring to wide receiver to Vandy, and eventually going undrafted and kind of hanging out with the Chargers for a training camp.
So the high school I played at, I was not a big kid. Always small for my age.
6 feet 170 in high school? No?
When I entered ninth grade, I was 5'5", 105 pounds.
Wow. Okay.
So it's not big.
Not big at all.
So what weight class is that in MMA?
That's atom weight in the female division. That's atom weight, 105. Yeah.
So I was not very big. Played quarterback in 9th grade. Played quarterback in 10th grade. Shared duties. Some funny stories on that. We weren't very good. 9th grade, we won one game, last game of the year, against the other team that hadn't won a game, and I didn't even play that game because I was hurt. My buddy Frank filled in.
Yeah.
Frank was the backup quarterback.
Heck yeah.
He says his claim to fame is that junior high, he won the only game that year.
It's true. It's a fact.
Well, it is a fact.
It's a fact.
So my junior year in high school, I played wide receiver. The quarterback we had, his name was Kirk, and a friend of mine. He was the quarterback, so he was a senior. I played wide receiver, caught a lot of passes. I mean, we had a good year. We had a good team that year, and my senior year, we did not have a very good team. I think our biggest lineman, who's a good friend of mine, even to this day, at the time weighed 210 pounds.
Not big at all.
I was the quarterback. My center weighed 158 pounds. I remember that. Our starting center. So because we didn't have much of a line, and
You were running that West Coast offense. Get the quarterback out of the pocket,
before
dude.
there was such a thing as a West Coast offense,
Yeah, dude, get him out of the pocket.
I lined up in shotgun every time.
Yep.
Threw it or ran it.
Yep.
But then I played safety. I punted. I punt return. I kicked. I kicked off. Kick return. Everything. I think we won one game.
Senior year.
Needless to say, there was no line of recruiters at my door. In fact, there were zero. So I didn't get recruited. My father took some of Orange High game film, sent it to Roman Gabriel at Cal Poly Pomona. Cal Poly Pomona was a Division II. They had a football team at the time. Roman Gabriel, ex-LA Ram quarterback, Hall of Famer, I believe. He just died maybe a year ago. He was the head coach. Saw the film, called my dad, came over for dinner.
He came over to the house for dinner?
Drove over.
Wow.
Drove to the house in Orange, came over for dinner. My dad was all excited. Here's this NFL legend.
Coming over to his
Come over
house.
for dinner.
Yeah, that's cool.
Making sure my mom made something.
Yeah.
Good to
It's
eat.
in the oven, right?
It's in the oven. On the spot.
Offered you on the spot?
Yeah.
Right on.
I still wasn't full grown.
As a receiver?
No, I'll tell you.
Okay.
So I show up that summer. I think it was August, right? You get ready, freshman year. Do our testing, we run our 40s and all that. I've never even run the 40 for a time. I ran a 4.5 on grass. Still pretty slight. I probably weighed 160 pounds, maybe 160 pounds. Roman Gabriel says to me, would you rather play offense or defense? Because I played safety,
Right.
return punts, all of that. And my question was, I want to play right away. What will give me the opportunity to play right away? It was probably offense. Then he says, would you rather play quarterback or wide receiver? Because he had film of me playing wide receiver
And quarterback.
and quarterback.
Right.
And for my size, I had a really good arm, and I did a lot of throwing on the run. He liked that kind of style. But we had a quarterback who was going to be a senior that year, and he goes, well, Freddie's a senior. If you want to play right away, probably your best chance is wide receiver. So I played wide receiver and I returned punts as a freshman. Did pretty well. I think I led the conference in punt return average and things like that. But there was these rumors that they were going to shut the football program down. And so rather than wait around and see, if I had played again as a sophomore, they had one more football season, they shut the program down. I left after my freshman year. Me and two other freshmen left. We went to Fullerton JC, played for a very well-known, nationally known JC coaching staff led by Hal Sherbick, who at the time was the winningest junior college football coach in the nation. Went down there and worked out all summer with him. And due to circumstances, I ended up being a starting wide receiver.
Because of injuries or depth chart issues
There was
or grades or what was it?
Probably all of the above.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew until maybe a week before our first game.
Where your wide receiver coach was like, "Hey, Kelly, you're going this week or whatever."
You're going. I think we played Bakersfield College. Caught a couple touch. It had a great year. I had set a California state record. I had one game. No, this is the game against Bakersfield. I had 9 receptions for 270 yards, which is 30 yards a pop.
Yeah.
And 3 or 4 touchdowns. So the yardage set a single game record.
270 on 9 touches.
I think it was a national JC record. I know it was at least California. I can't imagine it. I never looked it up, but it's probably been broken over and over again. The nature of the game,
Right.
the way the ball's thrown nowadays is so different, right?
Right. But relative to the time, that's an insane stat line.
9 for 270.
And 3 to 4 tuds. That's an insane stat line.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I ended up being a JCU All-American, so I got recruited pretty well.
Right.
So I went from not being recruited 2 years previous, this skinny little high school 158 pounder. Now I'm getting recruited all over the country.
Who advised you to go to Coach Hal after your first year at Pomona? Because that was obviously a good move for you. Because then you go to somebody that's recognized and has a good funnel to the next level, which is what you're trying to do anyway.
They did. They had a tremendous funnel. In
Yeah.
fact, 2 of the guys off that team. One of them, Brian Noble, played for the Packers for a number of years, and I think he was all pro. Another friend of mine, J.C. Pearson, he played defensive back at the University of Washington, and then played for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he's announcing the Chiefs games, maybe even to this day. But yeah, that was to say it was a good move is
That's an understatement.
an understatement.
For sure. Who advised you, if you can remember, about pushing you towards going to Coach Hal?
I don't remember. I know that me, JC, another guy, a running back, there was at least 3 of us. Might have been more. 3 of us went to Fullerton JC. But yeah, so it worked out. So I ended up in Nashville, Tennessee,
Right.
playing for George McIntyre and the Vanderbilt Commodores, and then there you go. And then, I probably didn't get thrown the ball as much as I would have liked. California kid, catching several passes a game. It was a different
scheme too.
different offense,
Yeah.
different scheme. Wasn't bad. I mean, I think my senior year I had 20 catches and 7 touchdowns. That's not bad.
That's a pretty good year. Yeah, for sure.
So I had some opportunities after that. Yeah, I had some opportunities. But so, anyways.
So to put a pin in that with your athletics and stuff, you finished off your career at Vandy, and then you enter the draft and you go undrafted, correct?
Well, I go undrafted. I have several teams call me the day after the draft.
So how does that work? Are you able to only go to one training camp? Or how does that usually work?
You sign a
minimum deal or whatever?
Yeah, you sign a minimum deal. That's the way it worked then. A number of teams say we'd like for you to come to camp.
Right.
We're looking to fill some spots. I think you can have a chance to play. But I didn't look at it or evaluate it very well.
Were you kind of slighted? You feel like you should have been drafted in some capacity?
No, that didn't bother me.
No.
No, I knew I wasn't on the radar in that regard. I knew what I could do, though.
Right.
I knew what I was able to play. I knew I could play at any level. But so San Diego wanted me to come.
Close to home.
Cincinnati Bengals, Green Bay Packers, a couple other teams. I think the Bills. There was 4 or 5 teams that all extended that same, we'd like for you to come to camp.
Right.
Well, you're talking about a Southern California kid who grew up in San Diego up until 9th grade. Dan Fouts, they throw the ball. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Well, the problem about that being a no-brainer is they had about 7 receivers with NFL experience I was going into camp against. And at that
Minimal spots.
This is 1985. NFL rosters were cut from 49 to 45. So rosters were reduced to 45. Teams weren't keeping more than 4 receivers.
4 or 5, yeah, for sure.
And so they had Charlie Joyner, who was a Hall of Famer, and then they had several other guys that I could name, but there's no need to name them. I'll just put it this way. There was nobody in camp that I thought was better than me.
He's coming out. You guys seen this?
No, I just
he's
put it
coming
that
out. I know. I'm well aware because you've told me the stories. That's kind of what I was happy that you say that, because there was all pros, Hall of Famers out there.
But you know what? Let's just put that to rest.
Yeah.
I was released a week before the season, which kind of eliminated my chances of maybe another team
Trying
picking
another
me
on another
up.
team.
Sometimes what happens is a team will let a guy go early if they think he has an opportunity somewhere else, knowing that that they won't be able to use him. So they do him a favor. They let him go early in training camp, and then he can latch on with somebody else.
Did they think that you were so good they didn't want to let you go, but they didn't want to do you any favors as well? What was that?
No,
I mean, because you got let go. What, that would have been week 3 of the preseason or something like that. 2 or 3 of the preseason.
I was suited up for 3 games.
Yeah, 3 preseason games.
Yes. I think there were 4 preseason games.
How many reps did you actually get in those 4 games?
I didn't get any reps.
You didn't get any reps? No, not even punt return?
That's
nothing?
how I knew that I would. So the coach that was coaching the punt returners, so I was trying to make myself useful.
Right.
The coach, let me return punts or something.
Let me do something. I know I can do something.
They're not going to let you. Here's why. If you do well, puts them in a bind.
Yeah, because they're paying this guy money, or they drafted this guy, or whatever.
They had a full stack of receivers. They had signed a guy out of the USFL. USFL at the time was a league.
Uh-huh.
They signed the top receiver out of that league. They had a guy coming off injury, so they had more receivers than they know what to do with.
And if you're another guy that they got to pay attention to, that's another decision.
They're going to let me in the game.
Right. I hear what you're saying.
So I didn't get in the game, and then that was it. No regrets. Felt okay. My career's over. I went back to school, finished up, got my degree. My daughter was born in 1985, so I had her, and me, her, and Lene's mom went back to Nashville, lived off campus, finished up the semester I needed, was a grad assistant coach, and did all that, and I was content. And it was at that point that I had gotten married, and I thought, okay, well, the Lord's got something else for me.
Yeah.
Right? It's not playing football. And I felt like, I felt good about being in camp and then seeing what I was competing with and realizing.
And knowing you can hang.
When your roommate in camp is telling you, dude, you're the only guy nobody wants to line up against in one-on-one drills, then you know.
People are skipping line on the opposite side of the ball.
They were.
Skipping line. Hey, you see Josine over there? I don't want that guy.
It was
I don't
funny.
want him.
My roommate at camp, and camp was always down at SDSU.
San Diego State.
In La Jolla.
Yeah.
No, not San Diego State. I'm sorry. Not SDSU.
USD.
UCSD.
UCSD. University of San Diego.
In La Jolla. And he was a high-round defensive back draft pick.
That year? Rookie?
And
He's same rookie class as you, essentially?
Like, he's like, Kelly, the brothers don't want to guard you.
They don't want to line up with you.
And I said, I know.
I know, because I got good feet and I got 4 or 5 speed. That's why.
I can see you guys over there counting. To see, okay, he's coming up 5th in line. I don't want to be 5th.
Yeah. So they're cutting each other and they're letting somebody go in front of them. That's awesome. All right, to wrap up this story, you had a coach who had you come out for the Arena Football League tryout after your NFL career or short NFL career. And Lene was born already at the time when you took the chance with the LA Cobras just to go have fun, or it was just another opportunity to play ball? When did the LA Cobras come into the picture? And I remember you sent me the coach's name. Lou Eber has a funny story I want you to share about what he told you in that recruiting / training camp process for the Arena League.
So I'm sure people are tired of hearing about football stories. So I don't know if I'll ever, we can talk about it later. You want me to talk about it now?
I want you to tell last football story, and then we'll move on.
So Lene was born July 14th, 1985. That's the day I went to Charger camp. So the day she was born is the day I went down to camp.
Okay.
So actually in my mind and my heart, it was hard to be
in camp.
Right,
because you just had Lene being born.
I had a baby girl, and no, my playing career was over. Nobody was asking me to try out for anything. I was working. I was getting up at 5 a.m. I was a project manager at a construction company.
Then how'd you hear about the tryout with the Cobras then?
I had a friend that he played quarterback at Columbia University.
Okay.
He was going to this tryout. I knew about arena football because the inaugural season was in 1987. So I knew about the league, but just because it was, on ESPN or whatever.
Right.
So he was training for it. He came out to California. I think he was living with Marv Marinovich, who was Todd Marinovich's
brother.
dad.
Oh, his dad. Okay, I thought it was his brother.
So he was living with
That's
those
cool.
guys and eating their diet and working out with them, and he's trying to get ready. Joe, you should try out. You should try out. I'm like, I'm not trying out. I've got a wife, a kid, a baby girl, and one on the way.
Joseph.
Joe Jr.
Yep.
I got one on the way. This is 1988. Spring of 88, or maybe like January or February. He's working out. He's like, at least go with me. It was I think it was at El Camino College, which is junior college in Torrance, California. I don't know why. I threw the cleats. I put the cleats in the car.
Put the cleats in the trunk. Yeah.
We drove up there.
You know what? Let me go see what I still got left in the tank.
Put the cleats in the car.
That's literally you. Yep.
And
makes sense.
I get there and there are guys everywhere.
Yeah.
Guys are parked. It's like 7 a.m., 8 a.m. There's these long lines and there's these tables and you sign up, your name, they give you a number. He gets in line, I get in line, wide receivers here, DBs here, tight ends, linemen, quarterbacks, whatever. I get number 99. So there were 98 wide receivers in front of me that were going to try out. And there were plenty of guys behind me. I don't know how far it went up, 100 and something. But in the defensive back line, there was even more than that. Now here's the thing about arena football. You play both ways. So if you're a receiver, you got to be defensive back. So really you're competing with all the guys in the wide receiver
plus
line, all the guys in defensive back
yeah.
line. Anyways, make a long story short, I pop the number 240 of the day. I run the number 1 back pedal, 20-yard back pedal of the day. I run the number 1 shuttle drill of the day. There are guys from all over the country. So anybody that didn't run 4.6 or better, they're gone. So that eliminates
100 of them.
90%.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Then they get the quarterbacks and go, okay, you guys are going to run routes. We're running routes. That's my forte.
Yeah.
Right.
Your feet.
So the coach is looking at the list. I see him and he goes, Kelly, he goes, you played at Vanderbilt? Yep. Didn't you play at Fullerton? Yep. He goes, you're going to Orlando with us. That was camp.
The training camp for the Arena Football
They
League.
took 2 guys from that day at El Camino College to Orlando out of the hundreds of guys, linemen and hundreds and hundreds of guys. They took 2.
And you were one of the 2.
Me and a tight end.
That's cool.
It. I made the team.
And Lou Eber head coached in
Lou Erber
head coached in the NFL. And what did he tell you at that combine day about the draft process?
Whoa. No, wasn't that day, but this was another day. He says, I've never seen a receiver make, how did he put it? I've never seen a receiver make so many defensive backs look so bad so consistently. And he goes, if you had been on our Super Bowl team, he coached the Patriots.
That's what it was. It was the Patriots.
He says, you and Irving Fryer would be my 2 starting wide receivers.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
That was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Especially because I know how competitive you are, and my community doesn't, but they're going to find out how competitive I am. And a lot of it comes from you. I'm sure that made your big old heart smile when he said that.
Sure.
Just knowing that you were like, yeah, I knew I had it. I knew I had what it took. I just didn't get the opportunity, essentially.
Sure. And I had a blast. And here's the thing about, I played arena football.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right?
You're forever etched in arena football history too. You are tied for the longest arena football touchdown in a game, 50 yards. Yeah.
I returned I returned one for a touchdown. I had several interceptions, a lot of touchdowns.
Played both ways.
Now here's the thing. Joe Jr. was born June 9th, right in the middle of a week getting ready for, I think we were in Detroit getting ready, or we were in New York. Anyways, I think I was in Detroit. So I flew back to California to Anaheim, and then went back for that game that Saturday. But that was the only year that franchise folded. The LA Cobras folded.
Yeah.
I got calls for at least 3 years straight
From arena football teams?
from teams wanting me to play. And having a wife and 2 children, arena football did not pay the bills that well.
Yep. I could imagine.
And I just couldn't keep quitting jobs
To go play football, to not advance in your career,
and to go
quit.
risk injury
Right,
and
right.
everything else.
Makes sense. Well, that's really, really cool. Those stories always get me going because I know you like your athletic career and you had a good time, and I'm sure you had a bunch of experiences.
I rarely think of it.
Really?
I don't.
You feel as it feels like a lifetime ago? Does it feel like a long time ago?
Well, it does. And what's funny is, when you have boys and they all play sports, they don't really care. They don't care what dad did.
Yeah.
They
They just want you to be home and hang out. I hear you. Speaking of being a dad, you have plenty of us. I'm your youngest. How has it been to, like you had said, you grew up playing football, you had these young kids on the way, you had to manage your home life, your professional life, your dad life, and obviously Nolan and Joseph, Chris and Lene's mom is different than my mom, and so you're now married to my mom. How was it kind of just transitioning out of the sports conversation and into your personal life and where you can actually give us some good juice? How was it trying to pick up the pieces from what you had started, and then also try and blend that and make the best of an opportunity with your new family and your blended family, and just kind of leading that charge because we had so many mouths to feed and there was so much always going on. It felt like, at least in my childhood, I feel like there was always stuff going on. How was it trying to navigate that and not kind of lose yourself in the process? Kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, when you, men take great pride in their families, in their ability to provide and protect. And, sometimes we get wrapped up in our identity is in what we do. So men can be very driven. And that's why you'll see, or at least one reason you will see within the corporate world, so many men sacrifice, they will even sacrifice their family on the altar of advancement because of that nature. I know Jordan Peterson has talked about that. What is it about male nature? Yes, it can also occur with women, just not as with much regularity. But for me, my greatest joy and pride was my family. Now that that also unfortunately played a role in the dissolution of of that family. I took it for granted. So I probably wasn't the husband and father that I should be. I thought I was doing enough, and evidently I wasn't. But so anyway, what you learn real quickly is, you mourn that loss. So when your family breaks up, how you handle that void is extremely important. I didn't do so well. I didn't do so well as a single dad. Tried to do all the dad stuff right. And then you got involved in coaching, and I loved all that stuff. But I'll tell you what, there's something about being married and having that responsibility and having a counterpart, having a wife whose resiliency can match your ability to screw up,
Yeah, for sure.
And that is extremely important. And that's what I found with mom.
That's cool. Yeah, mom's pretty resilient for sure.
And I still got to make sure I don't make those same mistakes and take things for granted, and and nurture what we have. And that's not always easy. We've conquered many hills together.
Mm-hmm.
But we have, and but anyway. So yeah, you're bringing up, you're asking questions now. And here I am sitting here just running at the mouth.
I love it. That's what this was for.
But,
I want to continue the conversation. It's safe to say, I was not like your first four kids, personality wise, just kind of all across the board.
I just couldn't wait to straighten you out.
Yeah, I know. You were ready to crack the whip.
I was gonna fix you.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna challenge you at the same time. Nolan, Joseph, Lene, Chris. From a general perspective, were obedient, first-time obedience, the way you raised them initially. And then obviously you coming in until I was a later kid, and trying to instill those kind of same aspects of your parenting. And I was definitely rebellious too. What my question is with that was, how hard was it? How hard did I make it on you? But what about your why as to why you were so persistent in your regime, as it may have seemed or felt like sometimes? Why were you so persistent? Because I remember challenging you intentionally to see how you would react, knowing you would react in some way, and it almost being ammo to the ammo box that I could take to mom and see, like, B, C, he is an ass, or he is mean, or he is whatever the case may be. But there would be times where I challenged you and you didn't react that way. And it was like, dude, I can't get this guy to break almost sometimes. There would be many times where we butted heads. What was it about you, maybe throughout our relationship or throughout, what did you see in me? What made it to where you were so persistent in your ways that I was so rebellious to it at the start? Why did you think, maybe what lessons did you pull from your first family or first experiences as a dad that you were like, no, I'm going to keep burying my feet in the sand and this is how we're going to do it?
Well, first, let me maybe lay a little groundwork. So every child's different. And, Lene being the oldest, it's funny because if someone said, who was your most strong-willed child? Lene's definitely in the running.
For sure.
So, you cut your teeth on that. And here's the almost sinister design of parents. Younger parents make plenty of mistakes. Younger parents think that they're going to do it right because their parents didn't. young parents think they have it all figured out. They have it all figured out, and they're going to do it the right way because nobody else is doing it the right way. When in actuality, what's funny, just a little side note. So when I see my oldest son in him parent, so he's so much different. He's not nearly as intense, I think. And it's like, boy, I wish I had had some of that, because I was pretty hard as a young dad. I was like, I was gonna repeat. I was never in the military, but I was gonna repeat that mindset. I was gonna bring the football mentality, like when I coached the Wolverine. I was gonna bring that mindset.
Yeah, to the home.
And my kids were gonna do what they were told, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they have different ideas. So when you set it up and you say something like, well, because they were so obedient. Oh, come on now.
Well, I mean, generally speaking, I feel like I was definitely the most
but here's
retaliation to you.
Here's what you have to remember. You were the youngest.
Yeah.
Different dynamic.
For sure.
I didn't have near the capital. It's a blended family.
Yeah.
Women are very protective.
Yes.
Of their children.
Yes.
Especially if they're married to the man who's not the biological dad.
Right.
And that was the case for us. So when Mom and I got married, Nolan was already 9. Christopher was already 13.
Joseph was 15.
15. I think he was a sophomore in high school. My rigidity was over. They probably did a lot of things they shouldn't. I'm sure they got plenty of stories that I know nothing about. Well, I know they have plenty of stories I know nothing about.
Right.
So here they are in a blended family, and then so they have to make adjustments. That's the one thing. All the collateral damage when a family breaks up. There's no undamaged party.
Right.
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 And then so it manifests itself in different ways. But Nolan was so quiet, and he was, very easygoing. So it always appeared as if the favoritism was there. Especially for you. I can see how it would appear that way to you.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Why isn't he on Nolan's butt?
All the time.
Why is he on my case?
All the time.
I know you thought that.
Yeah.
But Nolan wasn't doing what you were doing.
For sure. For sure.
So...
And in the ways that Nolan would rebel, it was a lot quieter and behind the scenes than I was too. Like he rebelled in completely different ways away from your face, and I was up front in your face, and I was going to let you hear it.
Well, you were more emotional. Nolan was very stoic.
Right.
And I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying
it's just two completely different ways of dealing with it, for sure.
The way it was.
So
it was just the way it was. So that was different. And then of course, with Christopher and Joseph, and Lene was already older.
Right.
High school.
Well, she never really lived with us full time either.
Right. So that wasn't a factor for you to evaluate.
Right.
So Joseph's out hanging out with his buddies or whatever, and going to high school dances, and he's at practice.
Right.
He's home for dinner, whatever, do your homework. He was sort of self-managing.
Right. Very.
Chris was virtually self-managing.
Yeah, I feel like we were all to a certain extent.
Well, you guys were at elementary school, and that was a little bit more like, hey, get your homework out. Let me see your homework.
Right.
Well, I didn't do it yet. Well, why didn't you do it? You're supposed to do it when you first get home.
Yeah.
That type.
Yeah.
So I was always trying to implement a schedule. So we were frustrating each other.
Yeah, because I didn't want to schedule.
No, you didn't want to schedule.
I wanted to do stuff by the seat of my pants. Whenever I felt like it.
You still do.
Yeah.
You still need me to provide a schedule.
That's probably a little bit true. Okay. So moving on from that, like what specifically as like the head of our household and having to uphold that standard or that responsibility. When you have dysfunction or you have chaos in the house, what allows you to kind of keep yourself centered amidst the chaos and allow you to kind of keep your sails going the direction that you want to go? Like, I'm struggling with, I mean, I have a young family. I've got a new job that I'm starting. I've got a new apartment we just moved into, and I feel like a little overwhelmed with all the stuff that's going on. And I'm sure it's going to get more overwhelming as time goes on with more factors that you're trying to do. You know, I've got my podcast. I'm sure that'll have its own stresses and things. How do you clear the plate and keep doing everything you're supposed to at the level that you're supposed to without kind of burning yourself out? Like, what did you do? What was your compass? What was your anchor? What was your thing that you could fall back on to kind of reset or maybe recharge the batteries?
Well, you have to have outside structure. Otherwise, you can just burn out. So, for instance, for me, and now, you know, it wasn't always this way, but a return to my faith. That's a must. That's a necessity. Mom and I have moved around a little bit here for different reasons the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. We left California. We left Idaho. We're now in Arizona. One of the first orders of business for us is not just deciding where we're going to live, but finding a home church that we can get involved in. So we kind of searched a little bit. We think we found it. And so now that will sort of dictate the circumference of where we would like to eventually purchase a home. We don't want to be too far away from there. If we're going to be involved, we don't want to be too far away.
Right.
To be involved doesn't mean just going on Sunday morning.
Right.
It means getting involved in what it is they offer the community.
Right.
The congregation.
Well, knowing you personally too, that's where you thrive. You like to be involved. You like to be in leadership. You like to be in teaching positions or whatever, wherever the help may be needed as well. You would like to.
I would like to teach.
Extend.
I do think or feel like I have an ability in that area. Mm-hmm. So I would like to do some teaching, and we'll see how that goes. I think eventually that'll be something. We're still trying to get to know some people. Mom's gotten herself involved in some women's things. I haven't yet had an opportunity to get involved in some men's things. Chris and I are doing our thing a little bit.
Right. The Bible study.
No. Chris and I, as far as, for those that don't know, Michael's brother, my son Christopher, had a severe car accident 2.5 years ago. And so he's still working through some therapies and things. So I spent a lot of time with him and going to
physical therapy and doctor's appointments and checkups and stuff like that. Yeah.
All that. Speech therapy, occupational therapy,
yep.
et cetera, et cetera.
So you highlighted your faith.
So that is it. And I say you provide yourself a framework, a structure, something beyond that can, you said recharge your batteries. I guess that's a way to look at it. But you do need more than that. You don't want to just sit around in your free time scrolling through shorts or whatever. I mean, I'm on Twitter more than I should be.
Yeah, but you're not on Twitter like our generation's on Twitter. You're reading articles that are applicable to knowledge that you're interested in and things that are going on in the world.
Well, I do that.
Yeah.
I use it for some news or following some trends or see what's going on out there or certain people to see what they're putting out there.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think that there's a method to how I spend my hours, but I can't say that I don't waste any of that time.
You don't. You're very efficient with your time. I will say that. You're very efficient from the time that you wake up. You usually have a morning routine that you've been following for years. I mean, I could probably, I haven't, we haven't lived under the same roof other than just this past time period, but in a few years, and I could probably tell you your morning routine tomorrow, what you'll end up doing. or at least a version of something that you might end up doing. I'm really bad at routines. Still don't have a morning routine. I need to get better at that. But you hinted at your faith, and I know you were raised Catholic, but now you would consider yourself an evangelical Christian, I would assume, is the norm of which Christianity you would fall into?
Yeah.
So when did that transition happen? Was it more of like a natural?
Early in my marriage to the kid's mom.
Okay. And why? Was there a distinct reason as to why you switched? What was the reason?
Oh, why I switched?
From Catholicism to...
Well, I wasn't going, when I was in college, I wasn't going to mass. I don't agree with all of Catholic theology. There's some clear distinctions, and based on my understanding of Scripture, my beliefs align most closely with the evangelical. You could, let's say, there's
non-denominational
on the Protestant side.
Yeah.
So you have Roman Catholicism, the three main families or bodies of belief: Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. Schism or split was in 1054. The Reformation occurred in 1517 when Martin Luther nailed the 95 Thesis on the Wittenberg door at the White Horse Inn. And he enumerated his issues with the Catholic Church. Never recanted his Catholicism, but he had some legitimate issues, and there was much corruption in the church.
There was validity in his complaints, essentially.
For sure.
Okay.
Anyways, so the expression that I most align myself with is the conservative evangelical Christian. I'm not charismatic. For the listeners that I don't want to get too technical.
I hear you. You don't need to.
You want to talk about MMA? But it's evangelical Christian, Bible believing. I believe that what I said earlier, that Jesus Christ lived a sinless life. He is the second person of the triune nature of God. We call it the Trinity. The Son. He identifies himself as the Son. And he was the sacrificial lamb that provided the propitiation or the satisfaction. His death satisfied the wrath of the Father that would normally have been expressed on the sinner. And so because of that, his blood becomes a covering. So the shed blood covers the sins of the redeemed.
Which is us. Or those who
profess faith in Christ.
Right.
Christopher likes to ask me, who goes to heaven? Who goes to heaven? I say, those whose sins are forgiven. Well, whose sins are forgiven? Those who've had the blood of Christ applied to their life. Well, who's that? That would be those who, as Paul says in Romans, all your listeners can take this to the bank. Paul says, if you confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved.
No matter what.
It's that simple. If you confess Jesus is Lord, okay, that he is whom he claimed to be and whom the Bible describes him as.
Yes.
And then believe in your heart, meaning you have assented to that truth that he actually rose from the dead. See, Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15 that if Christ has not been raised, your faith is worthless. So the whole crux of the matter
Relies on the
rests.
resurrection.
rests on the empty tomb.
Yeah.
If Jesus didn't actually rise from the dead bodily,
Then we're fools.
Paul says we are of all men most to be pitied.
Yeah.
So that is what I believe. I believe there's really good reasons historically
Evidence.
to believe that tomb was discovered empty by the women followers first. And that was the match that lit the inferno, that spread the news. And of those spreading that news, lives were endangered and in many cases taken from them for claiming to believe
the truth,
that tomb was empty. And so while many people are willing to die for things that aren't true, I don't think anybody's willing to die for something they know to be a lie. So when people say, oh, they made it up, no conspiracy survives the killing of its beholders when they know it's a lie.
Right.
They were convinced that Jesus interacted with them after he was taken down from the cross and placed in the tomb.
And that, I mean, imagine being one of the disciples or one of the people. Like, I would imagine the amount of peace almost, and this might be a little off or maybe a different version or perspective. It's got to be pretty peaceful, I'd imagine, knowing that you're dying for the truth and that these people in front of you are castrating you and isolating you and killing you, essentially. I would imagine, yes, you're feeling betrayed and hated and outcast and all that, but I feel like there's got to be a sense of peace that overcomes maybe right before death of like, well, I get to go home. Like, I get to go see my Lord and Savior who just told me that this was all going to happen. I mean, I'm sure in the Bible that there was, Jesus had told one of his disciples that he was like, shame on you. There's going to be people that never get to meet me and are going to have more faith than you do. And that, like, relating it to what we're talking about, I can only imagine, like, maybe the peace that some of the disciples felt dying in those final days of like, no, I know the truth, and this is why I'm dying, and I get to go be with my Father.
Well, sure. I think what you're referring to there was Thomas. They called Doubting Thomas when Jesus said, blessed are those who believe and yet haven't seen.
Yes.
Thomas had required, and by the way, Jesus honored that requirement. His requirement to believe that Jesus had risen from the dead was to actually physically examine the Lord. Putting his finger in his side, or his hand in his side, or his finger in his wounds.
In his wounds, to see if they were real.
Yeah. And so Jesus said, you believe basically on what you get to
touch, feel, and see.
And touch and
right.
experience. And,
right.
But bless those in the future who will believe that haven't had
that haven't had the opportunity.
So I think that's what we're referring to.
Yeah.
But as far as the martyrs go, even Stephen being the first martyr in the book of Acts says he got stoned. He repeated the words of Jesus on the cross. He said, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Yeah.
Certainly the Romans didn't
That's
know what
powerful.
They were doing. The Jews who demanded Christ's crucifixion, they did so out of anger. The Romans certainly didn't know whom they were crucifying. The Jews had plenty of opportunity to compare Jesus with the scriptures. When he says something like, before Abraham was, I am, wow, what a claim.
Yeah.
He's basically telling the Jewish leaders that he's Yahweh.
Yeah.
That he is self-existent, because he was saying that the great I am in the burning bush, speaking to Moses in the Old Testament thousands of years prior, that He says, I am. Jesus said, I am. So he equated himself. So they picked up stones immediately, wanting to stone him. But their hearts were so hard that even after the resurrection, they couldn't account for the body. And they were saying, let's just tell everybody that the disciples stole the body. And that's what I mean by saying somebody's not going to die for a lie.
Right.
If the disciples had stolen the body, they're not going to hold on to that fable to the point of death.
Right. They would admit the fact that they stole the body.
The body was missing.
Right.
If the body wasn't missing, the Jews would have presented it.
Right.
Right.
Well, and they wouldn't have panicked saying, let's just lie to the people.
They would have said, ha, you guys are, you went to the tomb and it was empty. We have the body. Here's the body decaying right here. They would have done that. But yeah, so there's certainly the Holy Spirit, God, the Spirit of God, providing a sense of peace in that moment. Because Stephen says, forgive them for they know not what they do. They're stoning him. They're hitting him with
stoning him to
rocks.
death. Yeah.
And he didn't lash back. He didn't lash out. And I do believe, I'd have to look it up. He saw the heavens open. Acts chapter 7, I believe. I'll have to go back and look. But anyway.
That's cool. Now, what is, just to kind of wrap this up, I'm sure I'll have you on a future episode as well. But kind of just...
If they want me.
Yeah, they will. Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry. They'll like you.
They're going to want to stream, so we have to answer live, answer questions.
We can do that too. Whatever the people want, we can give them. That's for sure. Whatever the people want with Josine, we can give them in a timely manner.
Well, if you'll have me, I would come on. And like I said, I don't think I said it on air, but maybe it was on air in the beginning. I appreciate you having me on. I want nothing but the best for you. You're in my prayers daily. I love you.
I appreciate it.
And if this is something that the Lord will bless, then may he bless it abundantly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm actually very excited about it. It's something that has, me. I mean, you raised me, so I'm not the most consistent sometimes with things, and has definitely sparked an interest, a passion, a little drive to do this for sure. I do appreciate you having the time and making the time to come be on as my first guest. I hope that conversation opens up the community to maybe who I am a little bit more, where I see some things and where I get some things from. I'm sure I'll have you on again, and I'm sure they'll get to see a little bit more personality from you.
I would love it.
But again, thank you so much, Pops. What is our time, Lukey?
Hey, wait, real quick.
Go ahead.
I thought we have to talk about cheeseburgers.
Okay.
Coaching baseball.
Okay.
Joseph, Chris, Nolan.
Okay.
Athleticism.
Yeah.
And Lene.
20.
Okay. So we still got some time.
Dude, I mean, you can roll it as long as you want.
Actually,
Rogan's put out 4-hour pods before.
we come from Southern California. My dad is an avid cheeseburger eater. He does love a good cheeseburger once in a while.
We're going to talk about cheeseburgers.
Yeah, well, you wanted to, and I know maybe you were joking, maybe you weren't, but this is actually a good conversation because there's some stories here. We grew up with In-N-Out. In-N-Out is the greatest fast food, if you want to call it fast food, chain burger consistent across the nation. Are you in agreement here?
100%.
Okay. So what have you experienced that comes close?
Well, let's say
being a cheeseburger connoisseur.
Let's sort of clarify that a little bit.
Okay.
So I agree with you when you're talking about now In-N-Out has its haters.
For sure.
My
and
God.
doubters.
Look at
doubters.
The patties. There's no meat. Where's the meat? Oh, these things are horrible. The fries are terrible. Okay, I love the fries. So let's say this. Quality. Now, some of the requirements for an In-N-Out. I'm no In-N-Out expert. I'm an expert eater. Been eating them since I was in high school.
Yep.
So I don't know, but I think in order for In-N-Out to open, they're not franchises. So in order for management, ownership to open one, it has to be within a certain amount of hours of driving distance from their supplies, meaning the cows. They don't freeze the meat ever. So if you can't transport the meat
quick enough
from where the cows are being raised and then processed, slaughtered and processed to turn it into a burger at the In-N-Out, then they can't open a store. So it's got to be within driving distance because they don't freeze the meat.
That's a very important factor for the quality of the point that you're making, the quality of food.
Now, here's the other thing. A lot of people say, I had one in Dallas. It's not the same. Or I had one in Arizona. It's not the same. I've had In-N-Out in Boise, Idaho. I've had it in Idaho, Utah,
Arizona.
obviously all over California.
Yeah.
Several locations in Arizona. Not Texas. I think they're now in Oregon. Not in Oregon. Anyway,
Nevada.
So okay, I've had it in Nevada.
Nevada.
Right near in Vegas.
Yep.
So I've had it in what's that? 4 states.
4 at least confirmed states.
It's good in every state.
It's the most consistent burger. It doesn't matter what location you go
good
to.
in every state.
It's every state.
double.
Yep. Animal style.
Animal style. Chopped chilies on it. Light on the lettuce. That's me.
You always like your little spice.
There's a lot.
I do
of
like
ways
the
to
little
order it.
pepperoncinis that they give you.
There's a lot.
That's
of
really
ways.
good.
There's a lot of ways to order it.
I always get double animal style with animal fries.
Okay,
I know.
that's overdoing it.
I know. But it's good.
Here's the
good.
thing. Here's the thing about fries. They need to be able to stand on their own with a little bit of salt.
You're not wrong.
It's not like, it's almost like when people ruin avocado by putting it on everything they eat. Avocado is so good by itself. Don't put it on a burger. Number one, you ruin the burger and the avocado.
I love a good avocado burger.
Eat them separately.
You're crazy.
Eat them separately.
Or like an avocado toast. You don't like an avocado toast?
With salt? That's
Yeah,
good.
that's good.
Okay, so is there, as far as quality and consistency,
There's no comparison
Hold
because we're
on.
on the same team here.
we're on the same team. There's plenty of burgers I like.
Okay. Five Guys.
Love Five Guys.
Not a fan. Too expensive.
Well, you're not a fan because it's too expensive or because it's not a good burger?
Because it's too expensive. It's a good burger.
Oh, okay. Yes.
It's a little more greasy than my liking.
I love it. It's a great burger, but it is a little pricier.
Yeah.
Habit,
Phenomenal burger.
hit and miss.
Really? You think so?
I like the variety of toppings, so you can do different things.
Yeah.
Everything from mushrooms
Right.
to jalapenos to
Pastrami.
pickles, whatever. But I don't usually do that with my burgers. Like I said, I try to keep them simple.
Right.
But yeah, sometimes I think habit's really good. Other times I have not liked it.
I actually might agree with you there. It is not consistent. It is hit and miss in the sense that the burger that I get
It's the
normally
char. It's the
is
the way they
good.
cook it.
But yes, I know what you're saying.
I used to love Famous Stars with Cheese. Carl's Jr. for West Coast.
Oh, we used to have Carl's Jr. a lot when we were kids. He used to ring us through the Carl's Jr. for their
I
burgers.
used to love those.
Yeah.
Haven't had one in years. I think it's a Hardee's.
I think
places.
Carl's Jr. fell off. That's why. I think
Probably.
they kind of fell off a little bit.
I think Burger King's trying to make a resurgence. Haven't had Burger King in years.
I haven't touched Burger King in so long. So long.
Every time you drive by one, you're like, how are they open?
Yeah, I agree.
There's one car.
There's McDonald's I'll have once in a blue moon, and I know you're guilty. You like your little McDouble once in a while or a double
I
cheeseburger
don't mind McDonald's.
with a mac sauce. Gotta have the mac
if
sauce
you
on it.
order a cheeseburger with mac sauce,
So good.
They have to make it fresh,
Yes,
so they can't pull it out from under the light.
that's true.
That helps.
That's true. That does help if it's fresh.
You got to ask for some custom way.
Yeah.
If you ask for Big Mac sauce.
They have to make it fresh. Yep, I agree.
Now, the good thing about McDonald's is they're all over, and when you're driving, I used to drive a lot, and it's key for breakfast.
Oh yeah, their breakfast set is
When
so
you're getting
good.
up, when you're getting up at 4 a.m.,
Sausage McMuffin,
bacon McGriddle.
bacon McGriddle.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you got the sausage or the bacon McGriddle with the pancake patty.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the pancake bread.
And then I asked for their hot sauce.
Oh, and you put a little spicy on it.
So it's sweet and spice.
And spice. Yeah.
Or just a biscuit. They have good biscuit.
Yeah.
Like a biscuit,
Chick-fil-A has really
egg
good
and
biscuits.
cheese. Yeah, they do. Anyway, so as far as that goes, chain in and out.
In and out. Supreme.
But there are plenty of places, your bars and grills, your taverns, where you can get great burgers. You know, they're usually much bigger patty. I like that type of a burger also.
Did you
Smash burger.
ever go to Steak and Shake with Joseph in St. Louis?
I think one time.
I remember not liking their burgers, but I loved their milkshake.
I think it was.
So they had a really good milkshake.
I thought it was pretty good.
Really? I don't remember. I was younger. Me and Bryce went out there on that trip that we went out there. I do remember we went out to Boston. Me and Bryce went out when we went out to Boston and had a really good burger spot. Bar, tavern, downtown Boston area. Around,
Plenty
around
of places like that.
Yeah. Yeah, really good burgers.
Like a homemade burger almost.
Yeah. Or like a barbecue burger that you would make in like a backyard.
Like a third pound.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of other places. There's the Freddy's and the Culver's, Shake Shacks.
I've been out here for
Whataburger.
a few years now. I haven't had Culver's yet. Is Culver's good?
You've never had Culver's?
I don't think so. What was the place that we used to go to when Joseph was playing at UCR? They would give us the free burgers from was that Baker's?
That's very small. That's Riverside. That's it.
They didn't go outside of Riverside?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Theirs burgers were pretty good. I mean, we used to get them for free, so I'm sure they tasted a lot better, but
Yeah, they're not bad. But Culver's,
doesn't Culver's do ice cream? Isn't that what Culver's is known for? Their ice cream? Custard. That's what it is. Did you have Culver's in San Diego growing up?
no.
No?
Jack in the Box,
Jack in the Box?
McDonald's.
In and Out?
No.
When was the first In and Out that you went to? In high school?
When I moved to Orange County in 9th grade.
And where was the location?
I think it was in Garden Grove. I think.
Off of Beach?
I don't remember.
Beach goes through Garden Grove, right?
There wasn't one near me in Orange, I don't think. Anyway. But, okay, so we talked about cheeseburgers.
Yeah, you got your cheeseburger top again. There you go.
Love cheeseburgers. Grandma loved cheeseburgers.
Grandma did love cheeseburgers.
I could take her out to lunch.
She'd get a cheeseburger every time.
She'd have cheeseburger, and I could take her right back at dinner, and she'd order a cheeseburger.
Yeah. She did order. I remember when she was around, she did order a lot of cheeseburgers.
Part of that might have been part of her dementia. That might have contributed.
Maybe. Or she just wanted a cheeseburger every single time. She forgot that she had a cheeseburger the time before. That's funny. That, you know what? We'll end it with this. Grandma's funeral and life celebration. That was really cool. I hope you've been able to reflect on that a little bit and see how much everybody from our family kind of all rallied together within a week or two notice and kind of showed up in Southern California. That was really cool.
It was very moving. I mean, there were people there that we grew up with from San Diego. Mm-hmm. There were lots of high school friends. Here's the thing. When someone who's 89 passes away, and the gal that ran the service at the funeral home made this observation or made this comment. When someone's older like that and they pass away, many times there's not more than
15, 20 people.
Sometimes
10,
even
less.
That. This place was packed.
We packed it out front to back.
It's because we still have relatives in the area.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's brother and sister were there. One's from Orange County, one's
Bonnie
from
and
San
Skip.
Diego.
Yeah.
Nieces and nephews, and then a lot of friends of my sister, friends of my older brother, friends of me and my younger brother, high school friends. They remember Barb Kelly. They weren't coming just because of us.
No, they remember it as Mama Kelly, I'd imagine.
They were coming because of my mom.
I'd imagine, and I'm sure
she was an extremely gracious woman. If you were a friend and you came to the house, everybody's treated the same. She loved everybody. She got along with everybody. She never had a cross word for anybody. She didn't hold grudges. I mean, she was so pleasant.
Was Grandma like the neighborhood mom?
As far as
in some ways,
me and my brothers always having friends and coming over.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Kind of like our house growing up, a little bit.
Yeah,
You and mom being the kind of the neighborhood parents, all of our teammates or friends or whatever, we'd always kind of congregate to the house.
Come over whenever.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I mean, obviously all of our cousins showed up at our level of family. We had all the cousins, and we were kind of all acknowledging that in Lene's backyard, just how cool it was that a lot of people we have never met, haven't seen in a long time, people that came out of the woodworks and said, I'm so-and-so's this person's friend from high school or whatever. It was cool. It showed how much of an impact that grandma had on everybody around her. And I'd imagine that your funeral will be much of the same. I'm not trying to have that come anytime soon, but I'd imagine we're going to need a little bit bigger of a building than that to fill the place out.
I don't know. I mean, me and mom are talking about just, moving to North Dakota. I mean, who's going to come to that?
Yeah, right, dude. You're not going to North Dakota. That'd be way too far away from us. You would hate that. You'd hate that. Well, Pops, I appreciate you. We're probably about an hour and a half the way through. I knew this was going to be my longest episode, and I do appreciate you coming. We will definitely have you on next time. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Chapter 1 of Josine, my pop, here on the Unnamed Podcast. We appreciate you for hanging out, learning a thing or two, giving us your listening ear, and giving us your time. We will see you next time. Make sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment. We're still trying to take name suggestions. We're the Unnamed Podcast right now. So if y'all have any suggestions, leave them in the comment section below. I'm going to leave a link for Luke's YouTube, my YouTube, and Jordan, the Chalk Studios Instagram and everything like that. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you guys tune in next time. Episode 4 is going to be on the way here soon. We're excited about it. We should have softly confirmed. We have David Clay, Schmitty, those two coming up for sure. And then we have some more stuff in the works for you guys. So be patient. Luke. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Pops. I appreciate you. I love you.
Bud.
We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.